Thanks, Siddharth, for a beautiful introduction. And good evening, everyone, once again. I know it has been a long day for you, and I will make my session quite short and quick to address the messaging that I wanted you to really get with. And this is something which is very important for everyone's concern. It is related to the data that matters the most. What are you doing with your data? How well you are securing the data is what I'm going to talk about. Myself, Prakash, I take care of the business development for Thales for India. And the agenda that I have just kept it was to talk about very briefly, if people who are not aware of what Thales does, just to tell you what Thales is about. Then what exactly the organizations are looking for today. Maybe that is the requirement that you might have, which we would like to figure it out. What are the data breach targets? That is very important in terms of, it's just not the PI data, but there are other important data that are your breach targets. What is the current cybersecurity adoption trend in India? And what is the shift in terms of the data security strategy that's happening from perimeter to moving towards a data-centric approach? This is something very interesting which you all would love to hear from me. And then we'll discuss about what should we do as a strategy to mitigate the data breaches that are happening. What is the data security maturity model that one needs to take over in the journey of digital transformation? And then there is news about the recent data breaches that has happened. Where does the Thales data security platform stand, and how can it help you to prevent against such breaches? And then the key takeaway from this session. So this is what roughly, I will go quick on a couple of things which would be a bit generic, but I will just definitely like you to focus on two areas. One is the key takeaway, and one is the key data protection technologies that you would be definitely looking at. So a brief about Thales. Yes, we are the world leaders in digital security, and we protect 80% of the world's payment transaction data. We work across the industries, be it airlines, be it your banking, be it other sectors like energy, utilities. So in a way, I want to say that we spend around roughly 1 billion euros in R&D, self-funded R&D, which says that we focus a lot about the innovating our products in terms of the growing threat landscape that's happening. And that is what we do. So we heard about from last 2 days that the digital transformation is creating explosion of data around, and with all this, there is growing threat that's happening with the digital transformation. The data is now distributed across cloud, virtualization, across the perimeter. So the perimeter security becomes now no more significant, and there is a need for technology which helps you to really protect or safeguard the data wherever it resides, either in your files or in your servers or in your database, anywhere. And that is where Thales comes to provide you this kind of technology to take it forward. So this is something very important which will probe the really discussion points with related to data security. Is any of these questions your concern? And primarily, I will pick 2 or 3 of the important questions that really you should be looking at. In terms of the security, are you sure that the sysadmin who is managing the database is not able to see the PI data in your environment? This has been a remarks from a lot of auditors, and they want to look at what controls can be really placed so that this kind of remark is being addressed. Going forward, when you're talking about moving your workloads to cloud, are you looking at controlling the data security angle with respect to the data that is going in the cloud? Are you using the bring your own keys, or more advanced, bring your own encryption? Is these 2 mechanisms that are you implementing when you're moving your workload in cloud? This would be something which should excite you if you're moving about the cloud journey. Is there a key management policy within your organization? Is there where you manage the encryption keys spread across multiple applications through a centralized platform? And when I say you manage, it's basically managing the life cycle of the encryption keys, right from the creation to distribution to deletion, rotation. So is this kind of solution in place today? We heard about a couple of them talking about investing in data lake. So when talk about investing in data lake, how are you going to ensure that the data that is coming in is really being protected, and the encryption of the encryption keys are well managed through a centralized mechanism? what exactly is the integrated risk management approach? Is it more self-driven, or I would say, is it something which is more based on the incidents that happen and then you take it? So instead of being proactive, it's more of a reactive approach that you are taking. And how are you ensuring that the two applications which are communicating with each other, there is a trust between them? So is there a way that you ensure that there is a secure machine identities kind of relationship existing in the organization? These are the questions that I would like to, for you to figure out. If most of the questions you are saying that, yes, I want to look at this, this is where we would be able to help you out, and you can reach us for a discussion post the session. So what are the organizations looking for today is primarily they're looking for a solution that addresses data at rest encryption, the data in motion encryption, the key management that I just talked about. How do we control the access in terms of who is authorized to look at the data and who is not getting the access to the data, and what we are doing for the cloud security. So talking about the data breach target, I was mentioning it's not just the personal identifiable information that is important to you. The data related to the financial transactions also equally important, where you have your credit card numbers, you have your expiry dates, your bank account details, the data related to health information, which is equally critical. Your IP information related to that are very important. Your competitive information, legal information which is there is equally important, and the most important, yes, all your usernames and passwords, the encryption keys, this network architecture diagram, how are you protecting them? So in terms of these are the data breach targets that people would like to kind of exploit given the opportunity in the changing threat landscape. Apart from this, then you definitely face the heat from regulators who keep coming and asking you what are the controls and security mechanisms you have in place in terms of data security, and how you are meeting out the stringent compliance requirements, be it your ISO 27001 requirements, be it mandated from PCI DSS. There has been extensive talk on RBI security guidelines, your Aadhaar Act, which talks about securing your Aadhaar numbers if they are being considered in your databases, GDPR, which is impacting big way in the organizations which store the NRI customers' data. However, from the health vertical, it is the HIPAA that mandates the compliance part of it, and definitely the most data protection bill which is going to come is going to definitely reinforce all these aspects of data security that we may not be doing currently. So some of the data breach news which was picked up from the recent study by IBM saying that on average, Indian organizations lost around 12.8 crore on the data breaches. And the cost of data breaches rise in over 12% in past 5 years. And especially the organizations who invested on the encryption technology has been the ones who that helped them to save the cost in terms of the breach cost that happens. So what I want to say is that while encryption technology, people feel it is something which can be not very helpful, but that is where it helps you in terms of protecting you against the breach. About the cybersecurity adoption trend, I mean, there has been a report where you see 80% of the financial services which have been surveyed says that they focus only when there is a reporting of incident or breach. So that's the kind of a reactive approach that organizations have been taking traditionally, and that is where we need to kind of reinforce, saying that we need to become prevent before things happen. So there is a shift which I was talking about right from the network security perspective to securing the data. Right now, the zero-day hacks that happen which cut across your perimeter security level applications like your web firewalls, your application firewalls, your intrusion detection devices, and able to exploit the vulnerability within the applications and get access to the data, and they're able to modify the data, or it helps, or do some kind of changes in the data which results in any kind of breach. So the way the approach has been earlier looked at was first secure the perimeter, then move towards the kind of securing the data. Now it is purely from data security that you need to look at and then address it. To emphasize more on this, I will request to play a video which will talk about how CIOs have or kind of not looked at this aspect of data-centric, which led to loss of data as well as loss of reputation. And this is something which will awaken you all, saying that encryption is something which you should make it must in the organization rather than good to have. Please, can you play the video?
New developments this morning in the hack of 90,000 customer accounts at BMO and Simply Financial, CIBC owned. Of course, the hackers had threatened to release customer data if those banks didn't pay a $1 million ransom. This morning, it appears they're following through on that threat. Aaron Saltzman has the details.
They're offering 100% of the money lost, but...
Simply Financial customer Evan Cosner got the bad news on the same device he uses for his banking.
We got this notification saying that hackers have potentially taken over your account, and it could be cause for concern.
Already, the hackers' handiwork is showing up online. CBC News found a list of 100 names, BMO customers, their bank account, debit cards, social insurance numbers, home address, occupation, marital status, even their air miles number, out there for all to see and anyone to use. In an extraordinary twist, the hackers revealed how they got the information. In an email, the hackers say they used an algorithm to get account numbers. Then they posed as authentic customers who had forgotten their password. That, they say, allowed them to reset the backup security questions and answers, giving them access to the account. Some experts say banks aren't doing nearly enough to protect customer information.
There's things that they can do, such as simple items as encrypting the data that you hold on your servers, that even in the event of an accident or a malicious act, that data is not going to be useful for anybody that gets access to it.
When they do get access, in most provinces, there are no rules forcing companies to notify consumers of a security breach.
We have no idea of the size of the problem,
close the video, please.
How many companies are having trouble with this, and how many records of people's personal information are lost.
Great. So the point I wanted to emphasize that the CIO has been telling also that, see, in spite of all the investment done across putting up technology controls, the basic thing which we missed out was building up a right encryption strategy in the organization. If that would have been done, the problems would have not faced by these organizations. Now, coming to the current reality of how the encryption stands within the organizations, we find that customers really struggle in terms of multiple silos encryptions existing. So I will take 2 more minutes. So the problem is that there is a siloed approach of encryptions, and the solutions that have been there have been just point in time. And the need of which basically creates a lot of inefficiencies, complexity, and rise in cost. So what you would need is a unified platform that cut across multiple use cases and is scalable to the requirements as it comes. And that is where as a strategy we suggest you is that you need to accept the breach, because you can't say you can't be breached. You need to protect what matters most, and that's where data becomes your new perimeter. And you need to implement proper controls around the data, which helps you to secure the breach. So the model that we have to basically talk about, and which we recommend to our customers, is that you need to move upwards from just doing this file-based encryption to have a system-level encryption in place, which is one of the most popular strategies that is implemented by large organizations. And more the advanced one is that where you do and go ahead and implement the encryption right at the application where the data is generated. Yes, there are certain time which takes in terms of the deployment challenges, but that is the most advanced. And if you're moving to the cloud, then you need to ensure that you have the control of the encryption keys in your place. Because in cloud, these are the responsibility of customer and service provider is very equally called out. And throughout, if you see, the data is responsibility of the customer. So that is where you need to retain the control of security of data moving in cloud. Most of the time, customers feel that, okay, we are moving to cloud and service provider is giving the assurance, you don't go back. I mean, you just fall back on the assurance given by the cloud service providers. But even Cloud Service Alliance Association says that the keys should be, which shall not be stored in the cloud, but it should be maintained by the customer itself. And these are the recommendations from the alliances which give the guidelines for moving for the cloud. So overall, the best practices, it says that you need to protect the data and you need to decouple the keys from the encryption that's happening. So it's just the encryption is not enough. You need to also have a mechanism to manage the life cycle of encryption keys. So Warmetric, Thales data security platform, which is the scalable platform that cut across all these risk stack layers that I talked about and offers the scalable solution right from doing the key management to do your basic file folder level encryption, to go forward and manage your application level encryption, as well as help you in meeting the journey, doing the security for the data in cloud by bring your own encryption or bring your own keys. So with that, I would like to summarize my presentation for this today, and I think I would finish within in time. Yeah.